And thank you all for joining us today. I know people have a lot going on, so we really appreciate you spending an hour with us. We think it's going to be a really valuable hour. We have a lot of wisdom gathered on this panel, a lot of experience. And so I want to introduce the panelists in just a moment. But first, I just wanted to talk about the context of this webinar in the series that we've had. So this is the fourth one. Imagine some of you have joined us for other of the sessions, and thank you for that. This one is about activism and the importance that activism, finding a voice and speaking up to make changes in the community as an important part of belonging, being part of the community, and recovery as well. So we're hoping that through this session, those people who are mental health providers might see how activism can really be part of the work that we do, and really is important to be part of the work we do. That systems and realities that we face in society really need to be changed, and that people are rising up in collective fashion and making changes, and making great bonds with one another in the process. So we'll be focusing on Witnesses to Hunger New Haven as our our example of this kind of work, and I'm very thrilled to have members of that group here with us today. So I'm going to start with the introductions. We have with us Cherie Bragg, who is a longtime activist in mental health and civil rights. Welcome, Cherie. We have Dew Walker, who wants to be introduced as a man of mystery. So hopefully some of that mystery will be revealed to you throughout the process of the next hour. We have Bridget Williamson, who is a certified peer support specialist and also has been an activist in both formal and informal ways across New Haven, and particularly in the Dixwell neighborhood of New Haven, Connecticut, for many decades. And then we have Kim Hart, who is the site leader of Witnesses to Hunger New Haven, and has been an advocate for many years on many different causes, as a well-known force here in New Haven, Connecticut. So I'm going to turn it over to the panelists and ask maybe Kim to start off with just each of you sharing a little bit about your pathway becoming an activist, so that those that are joining us can get an idea.
Okay, thank you, Billy. And Vanessa and Graziella, thank you very much for this opportunity. As Billy said, my name is Kim Hart. I am a lifelong resident of New Haven, was born at Grace New Haven Hospital. So that was in 1961. And yes, I'm proud of my age. How I came to be an advocate, activist, and just wanting to fight social and economic injustices is I became homeless in 2008. And well, 2007 really. But that's a long story behind it. But I was homeless. I was in Life Haven for 5 months. And then I got accepted into Stepping Stones Transitional Housing Program, which is a part of Christian Community Action. And I was there for 2 years. And they had a monthly program going on that was called, and it was right there at transitional housing site in the basement, dinner for that meeting, right? So I was like, yes, I'm at the transitional housing program. I'm going to go to this meeting, Mothers and Others for Justice, and because I'm going to eat. They met every fourth Wednesday of the month from 5:30 to 7. So I was just going and bringing my son just for the dinners. And each month that I hung around, my ears started opening. I started hearing what they were talking about, what they were doing, and I was very interested. So what I did was I started getting involved. Like they would have trips to Hartford, and then I started going with them to Hartford, and then they started needing people to tell their story to the legislatures. So with a lot of help from the group of Mothers and Others for Justice, I started sharing my story and started realizing that the power that I had was within me. And so yeah, so that's where my activism was born. That's where my advocacy was born. That's where I got my teeth into being an advocate. And here we are from 2008 to 2020, and I'm the site leader for Witnesses to Hunger Haven. Okay. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you so much, Kim. That's fantastic. And I wanted to then next ask Cherie if you might say a few words about your perspective and your path to being an activist.
Sure, thank you. For me, from a really young age, about 2 years old on, I was separated from my mother repeatedly and then for long periods of time due to her being hospitalized and institutionalized for most of my childhood and adult life. So I was devastated by that. Every time she left, I didn't know if I'd ever see her again. I was invisible to a lot of these systems that we were caught up in. But because I was also fortunate and frankly privileged to have another parent who supported me in my education, I ended up working in the mental health system years later, where I realized things hadn't really changed a lot, at least in terms of my experience. There were more people in the community versus the hospital, but there are still a lot of families being separated, and there still are today through the criminal justice system, through child welfare systems, foster care, adoption, immigration policies, things like that. So basically, I took my personal experiences as a young child, as a mother of a son who struggled in school, as a person who struggled and still struggles to this day in many respects, and a person who has had a lot of family members and friends who've struggled with mental health and addiction issues. So I took those personal experiences and then combined them with some professional experiences that I was able to get along the way, doing legislative advocacy. One of the first grassroots groups I worked with was Keep the Promise Coalition, which advocates for the mental health system, more resources to be put there that were previously invested in these hospitals. Working with children and families and educational advocacy and civil rights work. So I combine those. I like to say, like, the personal experiences are what ignited the fire and the desire to make things better for the next person to walk our path. And then the professional experiences have helped give me and continue to give me like a broader framework, some direction, a bigger network, and more opportunities to meet more people, and kind of guiding where those fires are lit, I guess. So that would be how I.
That's awesome. Thank you. Halfway through it, and I can already feel the power growing in the room. And next, I wanted to turn to Du and ask you, Du, about your pathway to activism and talking about some of what I've spoken to you about of your sort of the benefits you see in being an activist.
Okay. So I think I got involved in activism just because the people I was around with, that's what they were doing. I just keep finding myself in that situation. And I've got a proclivity, or I have a way of seeing what needs to be done. And if I can do it, I just do it. Like without fanfare, just get it done, you know? I like that. I like that part. Seeing people get helped immediately is something worthwhile to keep doing because it makes me feel good. And I think being an activist, even though there's a lot of like crap out there, really bad things happening, you can somehow make a difference. And that's what activism is. It's somehow you're making a difference. So instead of like pulling your hair out, which people do, you're out there keeping your hands busy doing something else. So, like for me, activism was really empowering. I came up through the mental health system, and I found that like I was introduced to the power of the group, and yeah, that was probably the biggest jump for me to be involved in activism, to where I am now.
Thank you so much, Stu. And Bridget, I want to turn to you now and just hear a little bit about how you came into this role as an activist, and share your story a little bit.
So my name is Bridget again, and thanks Billy and Grazi and HCTC for having me up here. But I decided to become a peer mentor, and they was having peer mentor classes at the Columbus House. So I went over there, signed up. I wasn't for sure if that was really what I wanted, but I just went and did get in, and I got into the class, and it was for 6 months, and I completed successfully, and they immediately shipped me over to fellowship to a clubhouse, and I had lived right around the corner from the clubhouse, so I was like resistant to go because I didn't want to go over to the clubhouse where I'm right by the Columbus House. So the lady was like, well, you can stay here another 6 months because I need you to train some other peers that's joining the class. And I was like, wow, I'm on for a whole year. I'm getting paid a stipend and still, got a site to go to. So I thought that was powerful, but I didn't sign up to be a peer mentor, to be an activist. I signed up to build relationships, which it was kind of very easy for me to do because I am already a warm person and friendly person. So, building relationship was really just normal to me, but I didn't know how to advocate for anyone or even myself at that time because I was still, fresh and, not so much in recovery, but the workforce. So I wasn't confident to speak for someone else until I was able to feel confident to stand up for myself. Once I became able to stand up for myself, it was easier for me to speak for others. But again, I can't do the work for others. Others have to do it for themselves because we don't save people. People save themselves. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you so much, everyone. And it's really powerful stuff. And I wanted to give those who are joining us a little bit of an idea about Witnesses to Hunger New Haven as an example of local activism that we're doing here in New Haven, Connecticut. And I wonder if, Kim, if you might start us off with a little bit just about the history of Witnesses, who the members are, some of the things Witnesses has done to advocate for change.
Absolutely. Thank you, Billy. Well, first say that that we are the New Haven chapter of Witnesses. Witnesses was started in 2008 out of Drexel University. Marianne Chilton, Chilton. I don't want to butcher her name, but that's how you spell it. Had an idea, and she got people in Philadelphia to come out and tell their stories through photographs about their struggle with hunger. And they established Witnesses to Hunger. They brought the group with their photographs to Washington, D.C., where where New Haven's proud Representative Rosa DeLaura, she seen their displays of photographs in the rotunda of I believe it was in the rotunda of the federal government of the LOB in Washington D.C. And she immediately said, "This is powerful, and I want it in New Haven." And and she contacted the people who can make it happen. And so we did Witnesses to Hunger Connecticut. and which is very successful. We had a showing of our pictures, of our photos, of us in the struggle of being hungry, right? And it was very powerful. We had a reception at Rosa's house, and then it just grew, and then it sort of like fizzled out, you know. And so I was interested in doing a New Haven chapter, right? So in 2018, with the United Way behind us, we had a meet and greet for any prospective members who wanted to become an advocate, and telling our stories through photo voice about our struggle with hunger. And 30 people at least came to our first meet and greet, and we decided to meet every third Saturday from 12 to 2. And we have a membership of 30 to 40 people. At least 25 are very, very active in our work. And we live in Connecticut, and every summer he does a walk around Connecticut. And so he came to New Haven at the Long Wharf site, and then he invited us to a roundtable, and where we questioned him and we told him our concerns and stuff. And Rosa is an advocate for us. She is a friend of ours, because we are keeping the lamp, the torch going, you know. And yeah, so that's pretty much the New Haven chapter will be 3 years old in January of 2021. We are still holding our meetings, surprisingly, but through COVID. And how we're able to do that is we have a Zoom link, which is exclusive to Witnesses to Hunger. And so we're able to meet online through Zoom every third Saturday from 12 to 2. Over the summer months, we are able to meet in person on New Haven Green. And, of course, practicing COVID guidelines, social distancing, everyone wears a mask, hand sanitizers are all over the place. And yeah, so we also, well, I'm not gonna, I think someone else should talk about our PAC, our Policy Action Committee, because we have subcommittees also within Witnesses to Hunger. So like we're just not meeting monthly, we're meeting outside our monthly meetings. We have a finance committee, we have a policy action committee, which is called PAC, and we also do dinner for dollars, where every first Saturday of the month we supply dinners at a church in Hampton on Church Street. And I'm not going to try to mention the name of the church because I'm going to I don't remember the name of the church. But anyway, every first Saturday, Witnesses members get together and we cook a meal, and then we serve it to the people in need, and the suggested donation is $1. That's the name, dinner for $1. And yeah, so those are just some of the things we're doing, and I'm gonna hand the mic off to someone else who's also a
Does anyone else that's part of PAC the Policy Action Committee, want to fill in a little bit about our recent work? Anybody have a sense of that now? If not, do you want to? Okay, go ahead, do.
We made up like a policy priority list, and so I could read like the two main umbrellas we're looking for is we ask our state and federal policymakers to make sure everyone has enough to eat by ensuring
Two froze there.
child in New Haven 3 times a day, 365 days a year. And so I think the thing that sticks out is we're talking to people who make the policy. And that's the important thing. It's like go directly to the source if you want to make a change. And make sure we have to make sure we make the ask. We have to ask them. Otherwise, you know, they won't be, they'll escape by. So I think, is that good?
Could you read them again? Do your screen froze up as you were reading them. I want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to hear what the two policy priorities are. Thank you.
The first one is we ask our state and federal policymakers to make sure everyone has enough to eat by ensuring that everyone who needs it can access the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, which is called SNAP. Our other priority is we ask our local policymakers to guarantee food for every child in New Haven, 3 times a day, 365 days a year.
Thank you.
I think it's like 1 in 7 children in New Haven do not get enough food at any day of the year, particularly during the summertime.
Right. Right. And you know what? And if I may, Billy, I just want to add just one snippet to that is that our children, our school-age children, kindergarten or daycare or Head Start to until the senior in high school, most of us are provided free breakfast and lunch, right? But what about winter break? What about spring break? What about teacher professional days? What about Memorial Day, Veterans Day, times when children are not in school? We are advocating that on those days that schools provide breakfast and lunch for our children, because just because school is out doesn't mean that children are hungry, right? So just because they have a week off in February, which is usually in February and April, which is usually the third week of that month, school is closed, right? So that means they're not hungry. Of course, it means they're hungry. So that's what we're advocating for. Like Du said, we're advocating for them because these breaks, these winter and spring breaks, usually come, and those of us who are on SNAP, who have children, know that the third week of every month, our refrigerators are usually on empty, right? They're just running on fumes, and and I noticed that when I have 2 boys, 38-year-old, 18-year-old, nobody in between. I know I'm Einstein, right? But whenever school break came around, was breaking now because what are we gonna do? You know, so yeah, so that is one of the premises why we're advocating for food 365 days a year, every day, because a child, including summer meals, because a child isn't hungry just because there's no school. Okay, and I'm muting myself.
So I want to return back to this in a minute, back to this idea of why that that it's important that people with these kinds of lived experience, like Kim is talking about, take the lead in this kind of activism. But I first wanted to ask, as part of our history, Kim had mentioned that the chapter got sort of reinvigorated nearly 3 years ago in January of 2018, and I think that one big part of that was recruiting and getting new people in the door and leveraging relationships that people had to take a chance on joining witnesses and seeing that it was valuable. So I wanted to ask Bridget, who has done a lot of the recruiting over the last few years for witnesses and brought a lot of new members in to check us out, a lot of whom have stayed with us. I wanted to ask you, Bridget, why you think it was important, what the case you made was for to people you know to bring them into witnesses, and why you thought it was important for people to get involved.
Thank you, Bill. Because it's power in numbers. That's for one. And I think people with lived experience should be at the table when we start having groups inside the community, because people with lived experience knows best and know how to tell their story about food insecurity. So, I think because I run the Citizen, I am the co-director of the Citizen Project. And when our group is over in 6 months, people are still looking for change, Billy. People are still looking to shift other people's way of thinking, and people want to get involved with something bigger than themselves in a positive way. So I just throw it out there about the group, Witness to Hunger, and people like, can I join, Bridget? Can I join? Yes, you can join. I've been a Witness to Hunger since grassroots, since the first day Kim came on the podium. And I would not leave this group until the day I close my eyes, because it's so important, like Kim's saying, about people needing food. And it's not just our kids and our grandkids, it's the parents too, because we have a lot of people that goes out and get assistance and get food when their food stamp run out. But they feed their children. So it's either feed ourselves or feed the children. And most parents will take the decision to feed their children, and we can try to figure it out or go to bed hungry. I have done that many a days, but as long as my kids had a smile on their face, I'm like, Kim, I have 3 boys and I have twins. So, that food insecurity was, I was in lines a lot, Bill. So it's important to break bread with everyone, not just a small group of people. We're not alone, and we don't stand by ourselves.
Thank you, Bridget. Thank you. Does anybody want to add in why it's important that people who are coming from the experience of in this case living with hunger are the ones speaking to the elected officials and speaking to the people who hold the power?
Yeah, I can say pretty briefly that the people in power, they don't know the details. They know like the basic framework for getting stuff done, but the people actually living the experience, they know the details. And they say the details are the difference between something fizzling out because of it's not being used properly. So that's what I think, and I'll turn it back to you, Bill.
Thanks, Stu. Kim or Cherie, do either one of you want to talk about from your experience why having people with experience at the table is important in turning the tides on some of these things?
Okay. Yes. All right. I see Cherie maybe want to say something, but okay. I just had an epiphany and a new mantra which I shared with United Way of Waterbury, is that, you know what? Nothing about us without us, right? Lived experience is what is going to help our policymakers determine policy, right? My opinion is that if you send out a bill that says, you know what, our children are only fed during school hours, right? Um, they're not taking into consideration that their children are out of school. It seems to me, but it's probably not. But more than they're in, right? And just the idea that children aren't getting fed on those days and they're still hungry. Um, the only way our policymakers are going to know this is if I tell them. I got to tell them, listen, my son is still hungry. And then, on the days that schools are closed, and then they're going to say, oh, you might have a point. Yeah, I might have a point. I do have a point, but at least it's putting it on their radar, right? And stuff. So yeah, so to me, that's important. And again, I go, you you are you are not correct in making a bill, in writing a bill or proposing a bill or whatever about something that's going to affect me and my family personally without me being at the table. We need to be at the table. And how are we at the table? We write our legislators, our elected officials, we write them, we email them, we call them. Well, pre-COVID, we went to their offices, but now, only thing we have to do now is just write, email, call, and say, listen, I voted for you, brother. I voted for you, sister. Woo! What I need something in return for my vote. And right now, I'm hungry. My children are hungry. And we gotta fix this. My grandfather, not my father, you say my father, but my grandfather often told me that never present a problem without a solution, right? So our solution is to band money together and get our children fed. You can't do anything hungry. And I am on a bandwagon right now. I'm gonna stop right now. But yeah, okay.
Thank you, Kim. Sri, did you want to add anything about that, about the importance of, go ahead.
Yeah, just two quick things. I think that it's really important for people with lived experience to lead the way because it keeps a lot of those myths and misconceptions in check. Like Kim was saying, if you haven't lived it, you don't know it. So when the person who's lived through it can tell you, I'm not lacking resources, or I'm not hungry because I'm lazy or because I didn't try hard enough, you start figuring out, oh, maybe these things have more to do with racism or oppression or trauma or just lack of opportunities I had, that's a different thing. And that makes people feel differently about these issues, which I think is really important. And then the other thing I wanted to say is I haven't been a member of Witnesses to Hunger for a long time, but from the short time that I have been privileged to be part of it, I know the people that make it up are people that can speak about these things from the heart. And having done legislative advocacy, but really any kind of advocacy, facts and figures are important, But any legislator will tell you, or any person in power will usually tell you that they don't remember those facts and figures necessarily. What they remember is how you made them feel. So speaking from the heart is really what changes, like Kim said, and Bridget and that's what really changes policy.
Well, Billy, I can see them doing a cold design when they go to making policies, when they go to making changes. They should be having people at the table doing a co-design, have the barbershop man there, the librarian, the block watch, the advocates, people that would live the experience be at the table when they start changing policies, and especially policies that impact Black and brown people.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Really powerful. And I wanted to also ask something that we didn't necessarily talk about when we were planning for this, but I wonder if we might talk a little bit. We're talking about legislative change and the importance there, but I also think witnesses have done a lot of work, and most recently through the case of this op-ed that we've submitted to a local online paper. About changing people's attitudes and how maybe that can be as important in some ways as changing legislation. I wonder if anyone, maybe Kim, if you might share a little bit about how we got started, and then others can jump in. We were all involved in that process.
Absolutely. Thank you, Billy, because this is very important. Witnesses to Hunger New Haven chapter wrote an op-ed, and we are talking about how people from other parts of Connecticut come to New Haven with boxes and boxes and boxes of free food, but how they treat us as they're giving us the free food is uncalled for, is unnecessary, and is hurtful, right? And so we put an op-ed together saying that, that dignity and respect and free food should go hand in hand. It should be intertwined, right? But if I show up at a food pantry, waiting in a line, that's just the nature of the beast, right? You're gonna wait in line for food. But once it's your turn to be served, you're talked down to, you're felt less than, you feel like, oh, like you should be grateful for the food that I'm giving you. Well, you know what? I am grateful, but that doesn't mean that you have to talk to me like I'm less than, like I'm subhuman. I encountered that many times. And so we wrote an op-ed about that, about how these food providers need to get their radars on, and realize that they're doing this because we are in need, and that they are not doing, but my opinion, Kim Hart's opinion, is that I feel that they are doing this for a feel-good moment, for them to go back to their suburbs and says, oh, look what I did. Look what we did. We fed all those hungry people in New Haven. And can you believe that they had the audacity to act like they want to be treated with respect? They need to be grateful that we're feeding them. And that is so not right. It's so not right. So we will not be expressing that very notion. So yeah, I hope that answers your question, Billy. And if anybody else can chime in, because I'm going on.
Would anybody else like to chime in about the message of the op-ed or the reason we put it together? I saw you, not to put you on the spot, but I did see you sort of nodding and agreeing with Kim at any point. And I know that you were sort of the initiator of the process by sharing your own story. I wonder if you have anything to add to that.
I don't know. Billy, were you talking to me? Because my two Yorkies just came in here. Was he talking to me?
Yeah, I was just wondering, since it was experience you had that initiated the process and you were involved throughout in writing the op-ed and helping to frame it and all that, if maybe you wanted to add anything to what Kim had said.
Yeah, because of the way we get treated when we go ask for, when we need stuff and get our needs met. I can just recall even, I'm not even talking about the op-eds, I'm just talking about me signing up for assistance. And when I go to sign up, for one at DSS, that's when it was on Bassett Street, the line would be all the way towards the store on Dixon. And I'm like, geez, I gotta go stand this long behind line, but if I don't go, my kids will get kicked off. For some reason, it seemed like every 6 months I got kicked off the state. And I'm like, because I never received the letter, they told me that they sent me out a letter, I never received it. And then when I got the letter, it was always past the time that they told me that I had to show up. So I would go in this long behind line, get up there, I'm already frustrated because I've been in the line like 40 minutes to an hour and get up there. Now these people are mistreating me. They mistreated me because they hollering at me, well, we've been sent you out a letter, but your letter came past the date. So how would I know? Because I was, they forced me to get off the state to go work, and they told me if I don't go work, I won't get no assistance. And I know I needed the food stamps for my kids. So I did what they told me. But when I got into the line and finally got to the secretary, she was nasty, she was rude, and she still made me wait. She still was, when it was my turn to get called, because if she didn't like the way I spoke to her or answered her the question, she still made me wait even longer than I did in the line. So it was always a power struggle when it comes for me to try to get assistance. And the op-ed, yes, we did do the op-ed. I was around for that. And it was my experience of me and my brother going to try to get food in. The way they treated my brother, because he is a COVID-19 survivor, and because he caught COVID-19, he is now suffering with dialysis, memory loss, and he's complaining about his ribs are bothering him, and he's been cleared from COVID-19 for 2 months now. So, and he's without a job. So, periodically we go around and try to get him some food, but the way we was treated, I don't even want to get back in the car with him to try to look for food, because the way they mistreated my brother. But again, when people see people of color, they look at us as lazy and don't want to do the work to take care of ourselves. My brother been working for Connection over 20 years, and he was at Columbus House over 10 years. It's nothing lazy about my brother. It's just that he caught COVID-19 from his job, and due to that, again, he's sickly now, and he's still not back at work because of the symptoms that's lingering around. So the op-ed was needed, but again, once we did the op-ed, I think some doors were shut. People don't want to touch it, but it's important for us to advocate about how we're being treated with dignity when we are going to get assistance for food. To me, it seems like people feel like, food should be a privilege. We need it. It should be. It should be. Everyone here, the United States is the richest country in the world. Are we talking about food insecurity? And then when I used to, when I grew up, people said, oh, we got to look out for the other countries. We got to look out for this country. No. I got to look out for my next door neighbor, because those are the ones that are hungry, not the other people in the country. I got to take care of our own before we can help the other.
So I wonder if somebody might want to add in here. I think the op-ed was, and other things that Witnesses does is sort of this collective coming together to solve the problems. I wonder if somebody might be willing to share sort of what it feels like to be able to fight back or have a response collectively through witnesses to things that sort of are that when people get treated badly individually, like Bridget's talking about, like Kim's talking about, what it feels like to be able to advocate together, to be part of a collective that you know has your back and is going to fight with you, and what the difference is that of feeling, you know.
I think you should grab this one, Kim.
I was trying to unmute myself, Bridget. Thank you. Yes. It feels empowering. It tells me that I do have a voice. It tells me that even if it falls on deaf ears, I have expressed myself, right? But as our message is falling on deaf ears, we need to come together with like we're doing with other organizations to get our message out, right? Because we, first of all, are people. We are people of disadvantage, because I hate using the word poor. And I know that that Reverend Barber from the Poor People's Campaign, he quoted something else, and I'm going to remember the slogan that he uses. But yes, we are poor, but we also have rights. We are poor, but we also have rights. We are poor, but we also have rights. So if they are not going to look out for our rights, we have to vocalize, we have to mobilize, we have to get together and say, you know what? This is what we are demanding. And I hate the word demand, but I think that is so appropriate for this inaction right now. We have to demand what we want. We have to stand up and say, you know what? This is what we need. This is what we want. This is what we are demanding. And in order to affect policy, you have to affect change, right? So, in other words, we have to change the people in power. It's up to us, the people who are in the trenches, the people who are struggling daily, like me, right? Who are struggling daily to feed our families. We have to let them know, you know what? It just ain't working. And I know I just messed it up grammatically, but that's how I feel. It just ain't working. And you know what? We have to tell them how it's gonna work. And I hope that answers your question, Billy, because I have a tendency to go off rails, and everyone on this call, but all the piano know that. So yeah. So
I think it was beautiful, Kim. Really, really beautiful. Very clear. Shreer, do either of you want to weigh in about collective power and what it feels like to advocate with a group like Witnesses versus sort of having to go it alone as an individual?
Sherry, I guess you go.
Oh, I didn't even know it was. I just wanted to say quickly that it feels very validating too, because when you're alone with a problem, I don't know about you guys, but I start feeling like, oh man, it's me, I'm doing something wrong. But when you get together with more people, you start feeling validated, and you feel like empowered and ready to take action. It's just easier in numbers. All the same stuff you guys have already said.
Did you want to add into?
Sure, I always like to add in. I'm an additive person. Uh, It's, I think what I was going to get at, and what Sherry said was, it's good to know that you're not alone. Like other people have the same problem, and if you don't reach out, you never know that, right? And you still keep struggling in your own thoughts, say, or a problem that you. There's some words in there. I got to connect these words, right? um, yeah. So the power of the group is recognizing that you're not alone and you can work together. And in, another thing that came out that I see for me, for other people as well, is this advocacy, self-advocacy, or advocating for other people. It makes you feel good. You know, it can get you up in the morning. It can get you out of bed in the morning. Know you have to do something for somebody else, and that's really powerful.
Thank you, Dale.
Yes, do. And Billy, I know. I just want to add this too, is that we we have to. The system is not designed for people who are hungry, people who are homeless, people who are struggling daily, working 3 jobs just to try to care for their families, right? One example is that when I was raising well, I have a 38-year-old son and an 18-year-old son, as I probably mentioned, because I'm always mentioning them because I'm proud of them. But with my 38-year-old son, when he was in elementary, middle, and high school, me being a single mother, I had to work 3 jobs, right? In order to provide him with the roof over his head, food on the table, safe and secure housing, and his needs, right? Growing like a weed, I had to buy, like you get your child's uniform in August for the school year, right? But then by Christmas break, he's outgrown those clothes. His pants are above his ankles, his shirts are above his wrists, and he's looking crazy, right? So what so when I when it was time for school conferences or PTAs or PTOs or whatever you want to call them, I wasn't able to attend those. Why? Because I was working. Because I was working. But did the schools look at that? No, they didn't. You know what they grouped me as? An unconcerned parent. How dare you? How dare you say, I don't care about my son and about his schooling? It's just that me as a single parent, I have to work during these hours that you are calling for these special meetings about my child or whatever. You know, so that's just another layer to the onion that we have to peel back, you know, because not all parents are bad parents because they can't attend a PTA meeting. All right, and I don't know where that came from, but I just felt the need to share that, you know, because it all goes. My opinion, Kim's opinion only. It is because because we need to get together and to see what's going on instead of blaming. Come together and sit down and talk. Maybe they should have PTO meetings maybe on a Saturday. Oh, better yet, maybe on a Sunday. right? Because when I was working all those many hours and all those many jobs, most Sundays I was off, right? And so come on, let's try to bridge the gap. Let's try to come together. And that was totally off topic, and I'm going to mute right now. But I'm just saying how the system is not designed for people who are money challenged. Okay, I'm going on mute.
So I'll unmute. So I just wanted to invite. We just have 2 minutes left. So I just wanted to invite anyone on the panel, if you had any last thoughts that you wanted to share before we wrap up. We're coming to the top of the hour. So are there any last thoughts that anybody from the panel wants to share with those who have joined us from across the country? Cherie, go ahead.
I'll try to be real quick because I want others to have a chance. I just wanted to say to any mental health providers that are joining us that want to know how you can be a part of what we're talking about, I think it's really key to share the power and share the resources that you guys have, because people with lived experience are closest to the solutions, but often farthest from the power and resources. And you need to be willing to share that power, particularly with Black, Indigenous, people of color, any oppressed groups. You need to share that power and share your resources to uplift voices and let us with lived experience kind of tell you what's needed. So if we work together, imagine how powerful that would be.